Hello and welcome to my review of the Scion campaign made by Duke. Now I want to go over uh, each stage of each mission and then give my overall review of each mission and what it is on my tier list of favorite Scion missions and which ones I liked the most and which ones I didn't like as much. As I'll also be reviewing the Nightmare difficulty as if they were separate game modes because they usually change a lot of the core mechanics in each of the missions, making them significantly harder but also more interesting. I also wanted to go over how the game has changed over time, because I've been playing this for quite a long time now. I don't quite remember when my first video is, so let's find that out. My first video of the Scion campaign was 6 months ago. I've been playing the single campaign for 6 months. That is a crazy amount of replayability and longevity for this game mode. And it's all thanks to Duke constantly updating the game mode, taking feedback, and just being a really great content creator. Always inventing new things for each of the game modes and refining the missions so that they're more fun and more interesting. Welcome to Mission 1 of the Genetron campaign. This is a video from 6 months ago. Now, in the Genetron campaign, the game immediately throws so many things at you all at once without explaining too much. There is a readme and a Genetron overview on the right, but past takers didn't notice that at all. Like, not even slightly. It's right there on the screen. I just don't see it because it's over there. I don't know why. I'm too focused reading on all the new things that I'm clicking on, figuring out what they do. The processor core is pretty standard, ACRs are pretty standard, but there's a whole bunch of things that's just not immediately apparent, such as the energy indicator at that top right. The energy indicator is a passive income resource, kind of like gas or minerals that you spend to use abilities on your units, and some of these structures have abilities that also spend that energy, and that energy is intertwined with how creative the Genetron actually are as a class of units. Mission 1 is fairly easy and fairly standard. It's the tutorial mission, so nothing really attacks you all too much, and you're sort of free to just take as long as you need to build up and go attack the enemy at your own pace. And you get to get a good look at a lot of the late game units of the Genetron and the enemies um, that you wouldn't normally see in like a mission 1 of most campaigns. Like think the base Starcraft campaign, you don't unlock the siege tank mission 1. That's crazy. But in this campaign, you get access to a wide variety of things, which adds to the confusion, but also it's good to see all of the tools that you'll get to use, and you get the sneak peek at what all the enemies will be using, or at least the Cruz faction, the human faction of what the enemies might be using in the future. If you want a general description of the story of the Scion campaign, kind of think about how the Necrons work in Warhammer 40k. We are robots. There is a whole bunch of people on a planet that we just woke up to, and we gotta clean them off of this planet because they have no right to belong here. It's a little bit more complicated than that, obviously. Just like how all the Necrons are in Warhammer 40k, it's a bit more complicated than them just being robots who want to zap things. But that's the gist. We wake up, we not happy with people being here. The Nightmare version of this mission doesn't add too much. It's still the tutorial mission, so it's not too crazy. But a list of changes will show up those were the original changes of this mission before the big update that I played recently. We're going to jump ahead to this mission's final form, and if you play it right now, this is what you'll see. You'll get a minor tutorial showing you some of the basic units and what they do. And it'll even show you some of the units that you wouldn't have normally gotten your first time coming through. You get to see some of the basic combination of units and what's good against them. Whoa, a tank. Hopefully this unit shows up that conveniently counters armor, and then a unit that conveniently counters armor shows up. Isn't that such a good tutorial? They come in like hybrid. Isn't that cool? I think this is a great improvement for the tutorial mission and will really help new time players really get into the swing of things a little bit easier. I still don't read the Genetron overview and read me on the right of the screen because I'm a fool, but that's just a skill issue on my part. So that's mission 1. How I think mission 1 is now is actually pretty fantastic. I rate it really highly on my list of Starcraft 2 games that I've played, especially tutorial mission wise, because it's not as boring as your normal tutorial mission. Again, you get to unlock many of the units and get to play around with them and see all of the in-game stuff that you might be fighting later in the game. It also, I can also see how it's still overwhelming with the amount of choices you get, but that's fine. You get used to it. Alright, let's head over straight to Mission 2. Mission 2, the difficulty immediately increases. It is a night and day difference for a first time player. You're not expecting Mission 2 to be like this. This is like playing 0 Hour as during Nightmare difficulty. The jump in what you're expected to be able to complete as a player is massive, but not too difficult, especially if you know going in that it's going to be a pretty difficult campaign and it's not overwhelming. The enemy AI have a whirlwind, which is a infinite range, or basically infinite range artillery unit that will shell you whenever it gets vision of you, and you have to navigate your way to the whirlwind without directly engaging the enemy bases. And this took me quite a few attempts to get done while still learning how the faction worked in general. On my first run of this game, on the normal version, I decided it would be better for me to try to clear through red base so I could stop red base from sending their large attack waves and then get to the whirlwind there rather than try to go through purple base. Mainly because I haven't looked at purple base hard enough to realize that you can go around most of the defenses pretty easily. I didn't want to deal with that high ground area that is all along the ridge that you have to sort of walk across, and I didn't know how to deal with that massively. And I'm usually relying on heavy amounts of static defense everywhere just to keep myself alive, because, well, who splits an army in an RTS? Like, come on, you just gotta F2 until you win. That's how you play RTS games. And there you can see the whirlwind and its artillery doing stuff. The second mission, looking back, is honestly not that difficult, but it's just the fact that this is mission 2, and if you're a new player, the scaling and what's expected of you to be able to the skill jump is so massive that it just is very jarring for first time players. But otherwise, I still think mission 2 is a fine campaign mission. On the Nightmare version of this mission, I'll put the changes on screen now, but not too much changes, except the whirlwind just gets a lot more powerful and annoying to deal with. And I breezed through the mission, I think on like my first or second try, because at this point I've already played the campaign to completion and now have a good understanding of what I'm supposed to be doing to actually play the game and the units. I don't micro as much as I need to, or because I'm still just F2ing to win, which is just like my preferred method of playing StarCraft. But yeah, mission 2, pretty good. A lot of people struggle with the idea that you're not supposed to attack purple, and the creator has done everything in his power to illustrate to new players that you're not supposed to attack the front gate, but everyone ends up doing it. Like, it's unavoidable. Even when you're yelling at them in their stream chat to not attack the front gate, they will attack the front gate. Just because StarCraft Smooth Brain just goes, hey, enemy there, go towards enemy. What I also forgot to talk about is this is when you unlock the scanning/healing tower. At this phase of the game, it doesn't actually have the ability to heal, just to scan. In the newer updates of the game, it has the ability to heal, I'm pretty sure. But you unlock the scanning tower, which is pretty critical for those later missions when there's tons of invisible units or high ground things to deal with. Also, very important, there is an enemy called a water bat, which makes your characters moist. It's what's happening to that Tesla right there and why it's taking continuous damage, even though nothing's attacking it. So, you could say that in terms of water-based fire bats, the moist bat is the most. Anyways, let's jump in straight into talking about Mission 3. Now, Mission 3 is an entirely different beast compared to what it was when I first played it to the last time I played it. When it first came out, it was basically a 1v4. You are fighting a extremely powerful Protoss, Zerg, human/hybrid race, and then the human race of Kruth. And originally, you get a set amount of time at the beginning of the level to use a big army to take out one of the bases to relieve some of the pressure. And I almost always went for the Zerg base because who wants to deal with those creepy crawlies? The Nightmare version of this game was a little bit different, and updates had already been immediately going through. Basically, the big things that were changed is green became mostly friendly with you, and they did weird things if you tried to build up in their base. Such as what they're doing now, which is flying away, trying to get out of your way because they think you're going to take their base. Which is recommended sometimes and not recommended other times. Once they started doing that, I stopped building up in their base. Out of courtesy, you could say. Out of all the differences for the Nightmare difficulty, there isn't too much to talk about until we get to the Nightmare difficulty of the latest version. In its latest form, the Nightmare Edition changed significantly, with now a very competent green AI ally who helped you defend your base and expanded across the map with you, helping you defend from enemy attacks. This was by far my favorite variation of the game and the final updated version of this map. From the meager AI it was in the first versions of its game, it is now a very strong assisting ally that helps you get across the map. This is probably my favorite mission of the whole campaign in terms of my relationship with the AI and how helpful I think it is. My only critique for this map would have to be that I wish the Protoss and the Zerg bases both lived a lot longer, because they die like so quickly in the beginning. And so you never get to see like the tier 3 capital ships from either side or like any interesting plays that they could be doing. Kruth just overruns the Zerg base really quickly, and it takes green about 15 to 16 minutes, along with Kruth attacking yellow, to take out the Protoss base. So Protoss base gets sandwiched between two of the AI, Orange base gets immediately overrun, and the Orange base getting immediately overrun means you don't really have time to go out and do things on the map, such as taking more expansions, or like fighting the Zerg or fighting the Protoss. You have to immediately just start defending your base from the massive waves of attacks that Crew starts sending. We're going to take a quick break from the main missions and go straight to the bonus mission to show off this cool idea that didn't make it into the final product, really. It is a relatively fast mission if you play it correctly, which is avoid the Zerg and go kill the enemy Confederate base. I, being the dummy I am, always opted, you know what, I'm gonna go clear through a lot of the Zerg, or at least try my best to do it, and you're not really supposed to. But you can, it is possible, I've done it. Every so often on this map, a flood comes in, and if your units are caught out on the low ground when the flood hits, they'll be swept away, as my units were in this moment. They started getting swept away a little bit before the flood texture comes in, but that's fine, and you get thrown directly into the powerful Zerg base. Don't do that. Don't be like me. Keep the timer that's literally in the middle of the screen in mind when playing this game mode. This map is probably the first time in the Scion campaign where you get to utilize the transport unit pretty exclusively. You're supposed to do it a lot earlier than I'm doing it now, instead of waiting 50 minutes, realizing you don't have the funds to clear the map, and then going to use the transports. You're supposed to use them pretty early on, or just make your way on foot to the Confederate base. But I don't see any other time in the entirety of the Scion campaign which using transports is the right call in any of the other maps. The Modern Nightmare version of this game is a lot different than what it was when it first came out. Originally, the blue AI would just go absolutely bonkers as if psi emitters from Starcraft 1 were placed inside all of the bases, and the Zerg would literally just kill itself, allowing the orange AI to attack your base. In the modern version of the Nightmare difficulty, the orange and blue AI both send significantly more things at you. More Nidus Worms, more Vipers, more Dropper Lords, and they're both generally going to live a little bit longer. When I was playing on the not Nightmare difficulty, I took literally an hour, but in the Nightmare difficulty, I was like, alright, I can just play the game as it's intended. Because you're supposed to try and beat the level, like, before the 20-minute mark, which I still fail to do, mind you. But at this point, I'm like, yeah, I could just win the mission, and that's what I go do. The bonus mission is an interesting concept, and you get to watch the cool AI interactions if you're paying attention to orange and blue attacking each other, but it doesn't come up really in the rest of the campaign, so it's not something you can really utilize. We're going to quickly take a look at the cut mission. The cut mission is one of the missions that Duke doesn't really like, and it's pretty unanimous in the community that this mission is incomplete and doesn't work as well as it should. So the idea of the game is you're on this island, and you're supposed to use air units to help clear the way and kill all the enemies on the map. There's also a purple AI hybrid faction that spawns. Problem is, the scaling on both the hybrid faction and the enemy Terran are insane, and they never stop scaling, so you end up with these massive forces that just completely destroy the map. And also that purple really doesn't need your help, and the defenses are so powerful on the Terran side that it's literally a game where you wait around for purple to clear the map for you, and you're able to do minor harassing damage from time to time, while also trying to prevent shuttles from trying to escape the area. And you're probably just sitting around for 30 real life minutes, 40 Starcraft, 45 Starcraft time, because Starcraft runs a little faster than real life. Keep in mind that the Genetron air units are like some of the worst units air to air in the game, and we're supposed to be how he's ever supposed to be comparable to purple in this. We're not. That's just how it's designed, sadly. Even though it's a very fantastic idea, if the enemy and the allies stopped scaling at a certain point where their 200 supply army was comparable in strength to your 200 supply army, it would be a perfectly fine clearing map mission, I think. But even though I do like the idea of the game mode, it's not executed very well, and it's not planned on being updated or anything, so it is just the cut mission as is. I did want to show off for the cut mission that it is possible to take out your ally pretty early on if you kill them in their infancy. Snipe their probes, get rid of their anti-air units, and stop them from being able to build up, and then they will just die to the enemy attack waves over time. Problem is, this happens. Okay, this was a fool's errand. Such a fool. Yeah, that's not really something I can deal with. Welcome to Mission 4. Mission 4 is the first grand micro map of the campaign, really. You have just a bunch of enemies on the map, lots of money to work with, and a little bit of breathing room in the very beginning in which you get to build up and plan your actions. Which this mission's purpose is to prepare you for the next mission, in which breathing room doesn't exist and you will suffer. There's a bunch of fleet cores all around the map, and your goal is to go around and destroy all the fleet cores, which fleet cores also empower the enemy in a way, and destroy the Decimator, which is an enemy super weapon that will fire upon your army every so often, and if you don't move them in time, will one-shot practically any unit you have. The Nightmare version of Mission 4 adds a bunch of new things, but the main thing that it adds is it adds 2 more fleet cores onto the map that you have to destroy to win the mission. Specifically, it adds them in the top right purple base. The top right purple base has very strong units all over the place and very strong defenses. In the normal version, you don't have to go up here, but in the Nightmare version, you have to clear your way to these additional fleet cores. Mission 4 is also your first time you get to really dig in to the fact that you have all the units of the campaign unlocked and all the structures and all the tools that you would be able to use as the Genetron faction. This lets you really customize in what you want to do. You can try air units if you're silly. Go heavy on the Aquillas and like highly specialized units. Make mass everything else, which I normally do. Just get 10 million Spitfires and the anti-air version. Get the torrents is what they're called, and just move the map. There's so many ways you could play the end game Genetron, but I have to warn you, the Nightmare difficulty will not be forgiving enough to allow you to get away with using low tier units and simple tactics, despite what you're probably seeing on screen, which is me with 1,000 torrents trying to take out these air forces, which are basically required. The Genetron air units cannot fight enemy air units at all, and Aquillas, the torrents, and the blitzers are the only things besides static defense that shoot up in any meaningful manner. Final thoughts about this mission. I really like this mission. I always take a really long time to do things, and I like to clear out the map, like every square inch of it, when all you really have to do is focus fire the fleet cores, and yeah, there's some pretty cheesy ways you can just do that. You can just sit at your base, make Jupiter bombers, and strategically take out all of the main enemy structures, and win the mission that way. But I don't find that very interesting or fun to watch, so I do it my way. If I was to give this mission a rating, I would say this mission is my third favorite mission of the Genetron campaign. My favorite being Mission 3 in its newest incarnation, and my second favorite being the final mission. Speaking of the final mission, here it is, the grand micro map of the game. This micro map is a 1v fucking many. There's orange, yellow, purple, green, blue, red, pink, and they all do specific things, and they all have different play styles and do different things. Orange sends massive attack units, such as like massive Thors and big ol' siege tank attack waves. Red, I don't know what red does. That's mainly because I usually kill red outright. Like, he's usually the first dead on my list, so like I never let him get late game. Blue sends lots of ghosts, which are annoying because they have triple tap, and for some reason snipe works on mechanical units, which I guess is fair because all the Genetron units are mechanical units, so if it didn't work on them, there'd be no point to having it. Blue is the stealthy air boys. Green is also a ghost, but they send mostly nukes, which is always fun to deal with. Yellow seems to be the mass little units, but also the reinforcing force that goes around the map and makes sure everyone is secure. And there's a couple others. Purple is not Kruth, but has like the Kruth mindset, where he sends ghosts and specialty units to come mess with you in different ways, like that Raven that's right there on screen above my static defense. There's also an big ol' not a big ol' Odin, I was gonna say Thor, but that's wrong, that comes in every so often, and once you clear the map enough, an even bigger unit spawns. Kruth's new mega weapon, the Hammer Lord, which is a big scary walker with extremely long range, extremely powerful gun. This final mission on Nightmare difficulty is an entirely different animal, and it's quite crazy how difficult it is to go through the map and clear everything that you need to clear, while Krukroth has his upgrades, which has him defend his fellow AI a lot more intently, and also do a whole bunch of new things, such as he'll get like a second Thor whenever the Emotion Odins pop out. There's also new super weapons that are appearing around the map that weren't there previously. I don't know if those are strictly Nightmare. I think those are uh, just new additions to the game mode. But like this whirlwind that you're seeing, that was from Mission 2, it's here now, and we're gonna have to and we just took it out. Just as it spawns. We really need to get that done. My opinion of Mission 5 is, even though it probably took me not the longest to beat out of all the missions, it definitely took the most amount of work and thought process. I think Mission 5 is the first instance where I start using Teslas in large amounts to help me win, and using their cloak field ability to help my defenses get that extra kick they need to actually function as adequate defenses. Mission 5 is my second favorite mission, and definitely the most expansive Starcraft 2 mission I have ever played. And it was a treat to play it. Thank you very much, Duke, for giving me the opportunity to help refine and make this game mode the best it could be. The final notes I wanted to bring up, I was very happy with the Scion campaign, and it provided me with a literal 6 months worth of entertainment, which is great longevity for a custom campaign within a StarCraft arcade, don't you think? I personally liked mission 3, 5, 4 in that order. Those were like my top 3 favorites, and the rest of them were good, but they all rank about samey for me, except the cut mission, which has so much potential, but is not going to be worked on anymore or completed. But I am I wouldn't want the cut mission or any more of the Scion campaign to be worked on too much more extensively, because I'm excited for the next campaign of StarCraft. One of these days I might want to finish the Invicta campaign. I started that, like, I don't know, a year ago, and I've never finished it because I've been doing 3 videos a day of multiplayer stuff and the occasional StarCraft thing. I've been playing so much multiplayer recently that I haven't even gotten out my Keystone videos recently. Isn't that great? Anyways, thank you very much for watching. Go ahead and enjoy the Scion campaign yourself. God, I just mispronounced it. I'm not even doing that on purpose. It is the Scion Custom Races campaign made by Duke himself. And I will see you in the next episode of the Book of Aegir's Gaming. Bye bye.